Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today, because honestly, we are about to take a completely mind-bending, highly energetic look at what might actually be reality's ultimate operating system. You know, have you ever looked around and just wondered, is there a hidden architecture beneath literally everything we experience? Like a set of rules or even a literal code driving the universe? Well, grab a seat, because today we are peeling back the interface of everyday life to stare directly into the source code of the illusion itself.
And the timing for this, it literally couldn't be better. The team over at Astrocast SL, who you probably know is a massive hub for exploring space, science, and evolution, well, they just dropped a major announcement. They are officially gearing up to release the full, highly anticipated publication of their most ambitious effort yet. It's a book called The Samsara Paradox, The Architecture of the Illusion. And as they describe it, we're stepping into an era of modern awakening. So think of this explainer as your exclusive primer for this massive release. We're going to break down the incredible core concepts of bridge physics, consciousness, and the cosmic code.
So that brings us to the core premise of today's deep dive. I want to pose this really provocative question to all of you conscious nodes out there watching right now. What if ancient Buddhism and modern quantum physics were not entirely different fields of study, but simply two different vocabularies describing the exact same computer simulation? Sounds wild, right? Well, I want you to treat this explainer not just as a breakdown of a book, but as a leaked system manual for the universe itself. We're diving into a unified theory that treats our reality like a massive recursive simulation. Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover reality's hardware engine. Then, we move to the cosmic operating system. Third, we'll look at glitches in the matrix. And finally, number 4, the ultimate exit protocol. All right, jumping right into it. Section 1, reality's hardware engine, 40 blocks and universal constants. So just like any high-end gaming PC or massive server farm, our universe requires physical infrastructure to run its simulations. In the framework of the Samsara Paradox, physics isn't just, matter and energy, it is literally the hardware of the illusion. Just take a look at this stunning setup. This represents what the book calls the eternally bouncing box multiverse. Rather than some simple linear timeline moving from point A to point B, reality is depicted as this physical digital structure defined by a recursive cycle. It's an infinite loop of expansion, hitting a peak, followed by contraction, and ultimately a full system reboot, which is what cosmologists might call a big bounce or big crunch. Within this bouncing box is a 4D block universe where past, present, and future are pre-rendered. They exist simultaneously, almost like data permanently written to a hard drive. Even tricky concepts like dark matter and dark energy are accounted for here. They act as information-compressing data, basically like hidden zip files tucked away within the cosmic hardware.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how universal constants can actually be mapped directly to computer hardware limits. Think about it. If the universe is a simulation, its mathematical source code dictates its technical constraints. Take the Planck constant. That's not just some abstract quantum measurement, it's the absolute pixel limit. It's the literal quantization of reality. And the speed of light? Well, that's just the system's maximum processing speed or refresh rate. Information simply cannot render faster than that. Then you have the golden ratio, acting as the recursive scaling mechanism for fractal blueprints, while pi functions as the core geometry algorithm. It is absolutely mind-blowing to see physics translated this perfectly into everyday tech specs.
But hey, a massive hardware engine needs places to host its users, right? Drawing from string theory, specifically M-theory, the Samsara Paradox proposes 31 extra dimensions, which effectively act as 31 distinct server partitions, or planes of existence. These are exactly where the diverse trapped players reside. You've got the Kamaloka, which are 11 planes ranging from states of sheer deprivation all the way up to the lower heavens. Then there's the Rupaloka, 16 planes housing the Brahma realms and pure abodes. And finally, the Arupyaloka, 4 planes dedicated purely to immaterial beings. So we're talking about a vast, multi-dimensional server architecture designed from the ground up to house every possible state of conscious experience.
Moving on to Section 2, the Cosmic Operating System, Abhidhamma OS, and Karmic Routing.
Okay, so we have the hardware down, but what about the software? Because hardware is basically useless without an operating system to manage the inputs and outputs. Here, ancient Buddhist Abhidhamma actually serves as the ultimate conditional logic managing the user experience. What we're looking at is the core algorithmic feedback loop running constantly in the background of our lives. It's basically a massive set of conditional if-then rules. Step 1 is data generation. In this framework, that's karma, meaning your actions and intentions are literally data inputs being fed into the system. Step 2 is processing, where the OS applies karmic routing protocols based on that exact data. And step 3 is the output, specifically the rebirth cycle. Your accumulated data directly determines which specific server partition, out of those 31 we just talked about, you will spawn into next. It is a perfectly logical, relentlessly efficient data processing loop. And as we know, every complex operating system has to have a sysadmin. In this architecture, that role is filled by Mara, designated here as the Grand System Administrator. But Mara isn't some guy sitting at a desk in a server room. Mara represents the system's built-in engagement algorithms. Think about the apps on your phone that are specifically designed to keep you scrolling forever. Mara uses highly advanced engagement algorithms, specifically desire, fear, and doubt, to actively maintain user retention. The entire system is fundamentally designed to keep us conscious nodes deeply entangled and constantly interacting with the simulation, so we never ever log off.
Which brings us to Section 3, Glitches in the Matrix, Diagnostics and System Anomalies.
Look, if this really is a massive cosmic data system running endless feedback loops, it inevitably has bugs. It has to have diagnostic tools and system anomalies. And here, we can see exactly what those anomalies look like to us on the ground level. We're comparing everyday, unexplainable human experiences directly against their true digital identities within the Samsara Paradox framework. So when we dream, the system is simply performing an offline defrag of our conscious nodes. What about experiencing déjà vu? Actually, scratch that idea of it being a past life memory. It's just a cache buffer error in your local memory drive. The Mandela effect, where large groups of people remember history differently, that is merely a timeline optimization patch being deployed across the server. And those weird, inexplicable moments in everyday life, just physics stutters. We are literally experiencing digital micro-anomalies in real time.
So, the obvious question is, how do we read the system data? Throughout history, humans have used all sorts of divination tools, but this framework argues these are actually just primitive ways of interacting with the user interface to read system diagnostics. Palm reading, for example, isn't magic. It's reading your biological code and karmic seed payloads. Astrology, it's not mystical. It's simply a celestial timestamp clock tracking cycles. And those ancient Ola leaves are essentially pre-rendered API logs, pulling data straight from the 40-block universe where the future is already written. It's all about accessing the system's background readouts.
All right, our final stop, Section 4, the ultimate exit protocol, jumping the reality groove.
If you are a conscious node trapped in this infinitely bouncing box of server partitions, being constantly manipulated by engagement algorithms, you don't just want to understand the game, right? You want the workaround. You want to beat the game. So the absolute crucial point here is that in this model, meditation is absolutely not just about relaxation. Vipassana meditation is defined here as active debugging. Remember how we said karma is data input? Well, Vipassana is the rigorous process of observing the system's inputs without reacting to them. By not reacting, you generate zero karma. You completely stop feeding new data into the feedback loop. And by starving the system of new inputs, you force the existing data backlog processes to burn out. You are actively clearing your karmic cache and jumping completely out of the deterministic reality groove.
And what happens when that cache is finally totally clear? Nibbana. Nibbana is the ultimate system override. It is defined as the unconditioned escape. It's that precise moment a node permanently logs out, breaking the multiverse pull entirely and stepping completely outside the source code of the bouncing box system. It is true freedom, completely untethered from both the hardware and the software of the illusion. I mean, this architecture is just breathtaking in its scope, fusing ancient spiritual insights with cutting-edge computational and quantum theories into one unified, totally logical flow. And remember, what we've covered today is literally just the tip of the iceberg. The ultimate system manual for reality is about to be released. Astrocast SL's upcoming book, The Samsara Paradox, is going to provide the complete, granular technical breakdown of everything we just explored. Seriously, if you are at all fascinated by the intersection of consciousness, physics, and cosmic code, this is a release you absolutely will not want to miss.
So, we've explored the physical hardware constraints, we've outlined the karmic operating system, we've identified the glitches, and we've revealed the ultimate exit protocol. You now have the blueprints sitting right in front of you. You know the architecture of the illusion. The only question left is, are you ready to log out? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes peeled for the full release from Astrocast SL, and as always, keep questioning the code.